So in today's video, we're going to discuss how the rich maximize their wealth using a few simple tax and finance strategies. Now, this will be a fun one, Todd. We're the owners of Generations Wealth Partners. We've helped folks all over the country elevate their wealth and really secure their retirement and legacy through thoughtful financial planning.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people get financial planning wrong. Most people ignore the important factors for scaling their wealth in favor of solely considering aspects like income instead. Today, that's going to change. In this video, we're going to break down the key techniques anyone can use to elevate their wealth. Let's get into it.
So this is a fun one, and I think we'll do a follow-up on this where we talk about there's this strategy called buy, borrow, die. I don't know if I've told you about this.
Yeah,
This is kind of a hot thing right now. There's some realistic ways to do it. There's some ways where, in my opinion, folks are giving bad advice about this. But really, the idea is we want to be thoughtful about what we own and why we own it, and thinking about that over the long run. Ultimately, money is a tool, and assets are tools, and we really want to think of them in that way. And what you measure gets managed. I can't remember who said that. I'm stealing it. Sorry. But what you measure gets managed, and what you manage improves. And
Sure.
so we've got to do a couple things here. Some of the basic stuff, I'm going to run through this quick.
Okay.
But some of the basic stuff is you just got to know your numbers.
Yeah.
You got to have some method of tracking it.
Sure.
Now, I'm not saying that you got to pinch every penny. That's not the point. There's not a ton of behavioral benefit to that.
Right.
But you need to know what's coming in and what's going out. And is that consistent with, in my opinion, with your value system? And I borrowed this from Carl Richards and I adjusted a little bit. But I consider wealth your time, your energy, your assets or your money, and your attention. Time, energy, assets, or money, and your attention. Now, when you think about these things, this is challenging, but I think this is helpful for people. It's helpful to frame the conversation. These are all finite resources.
Right.
And the way that you're going to spend yours versus the way that I'm going to spend mine, we have some overlap because we enjoy some of the same things, but they're different.
Sure.
And for you to spend your wealth well is different than for me to spend my wealth well, or we could even use the word wisely.
Sure.
And so you got to be thoughtful about it, but you also got to measure it. So one of the basic things is, just understanding what your numbers are. How much income do you bring in? What do you need to spend in order to live? In order to maximize your time, your energy, and your attention. And then some of that goes into, okay, how do we play with taxes a little bit? So the first thing is just measuring.
Let me go back to that real quick. We're huge proponents of second opinion. Okay. And I have an opinion on how I should spend my money and how I should do it. But I think no one would not benefit from a second opinion, particularly from someone like you, who is a certified financial planner, who this is what you do for a living. And not that you're going to say, oh, don't go on this vacation or don't do this. It's like, well, we got to figure out how to pay for it.
That's exactly right. And framing is so important.
Yeah. We as normal people, we make the money and we kind of invest it. And if you're not working with a financial advisor or a financial advisor who truly understands what's going on, you're probably going to make some bad decisions. And we all should get a second opinion on that.
I think that's huge. And, we're going to, as we transition this into really focusing on, okay, what do people that are wealthy do differently than people who aren't? And this isn't like a they're better than you thing. Okay. So, and if you want to email me about that, email me about it. That's fine. But the idea is it's a mindset switch, really. And that mindset drives behaviors. What you believe drives what you do.
Sure.
And there's a ton of science to back this up. And so there's a really big mindset shift that happens when you view your assets as a tool. And the purpose of that tool is to maximize the other areas of your life, your time, your energy, and your attention. It's so important. We see folks who routinely in the office, late 60s, early 70s, sometimes 80s, in better shape, that have saved more money than they're going to spend.
Yep.
And what becomes hard to do sometimes for us is to try to help them rethink their behaviors and go, look, you've got $20 million. You're never going to spend it all. Someone's going to spend it. Enjoy it. how do you maximize your enjoyment of what you've worked so hard for?
Hmm.
And how do we think that through a
Yeah.
little bit? There's this idea that we talk about called the terminal dollar. And we might have talked about this in another video, so if we did, forgive me. But the concept is at a point in every person's life, some people, this happens earlier, but at a point in every person's life, there's a dollar that's they've earned the last dollar that they will ever spend. So, Mark Zuckerberg earned this a lot younger than me, for example. Okay.
A lot. Yeah.
I'll probably earn that dollar like 10 minutes before I die. But
Sure.
the idea is above that, above the terminal dollar, there's only three things you can do. You can give it away, you can spend it, or you can invest it. Or one way you can give it away is by giving it to taxes. And so we want to be thoughtful about that. And what do you want to happen with your money? And so, with this mindset shift happening, what begins to happen is you look at money and assets differently. And so, where a lot of folks get trapped is they get trapped in the income and money coming in, money going out really quickly, and we don't leverage things as well as folks who aren't trying to live paycheck to paycheck, basically. And there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. I'm sure someone will send me an email about that too.
Sure.
But we want to look at assets as a way to produce income, and not so much look at our as fast as we can, not so much look at our time as the generator of income. And
Right.
how can we get to that as fast as possible? And so, there's the other aspect of that is how do we avoid overpaying on taxes?
Yeah. Taxes are just a waste to me. I mean, I know we need to pay tax,
Sure.
but you should pay your fair share. And as you say, your fair share is very negotiable.
Mhm.
It,
It's a variable rate under the current rules. Your fair share is variable based on a handful of different circumstances.
Mhm.
One is how much income do you bring in? Are you eligible to contribute to retirement accounts? Are you charitably inclined? Do you have a business? There's some of these things that can be done to reduce taxes legally. And what the wealthy do is they learn those things and they apply them to their life.
Mhm.
And so, we'll talk about a handful of different things here. I think one that's important is, trying to get out of the trap as fast as you can of trading time for dollars.
Absolutely.
And this is a tough thing to talk about. And as an attorney, this is like built into attorneys. Like we work really hard to kind of break out of that
Sure.
and look at things differently. And this isn't career coaching. So that's a different issue. But when that happens, when instead of trading your time for dollars, your assets are becoming productive, and that covers your expenses or your spending needs. It changes the way that you think about things.
Absolutely.
And now your time is your most valuable asset. And how can you use that, one, to enjoy it, but two, to increase your assets,
Mhm.
really. And so one of the basic ones is, we want to put money to work. People are going to be mad at me when I'm like, this is the most basic thing that we can do. But, we have to keep up with inflation.
Right.
And the way that we do that is not by holding on to cash. It's by investing in either income producing assets or in assets that appreciate.
Mhm. If you're holding on to cash or in a very quote safe but low paying investment, you're losing money.
You might be losing money really slowly.
Right. But
If
you're
you have
still
everything
losing
in
money.
treasury bills,
Yeah.
that's not a great long-term strategy. And so
Yeah.
you've got to make assets productive above whatever you need to maintain your emergency fund and your basic cash reserves.
Right.
And that's something that I think that mindset shift that wealthy people on average do more frequently is they look at assets as a way to increase their flexibility, not as a way to just fund lifestyle
Hmm.
primarily.
Sure.
And really that there's a lot that goes into that. And the other thing that I think is interesting is they educate themselves about what the opportunities are and what they can do.
Mhm.
And everyone has a different level of education that they're able to attain, or you don't have to be an expert in this stuff the way that we are. That's not really the point, but
Wow.
you need to have enough understanding to know what you don't know,
Mhm.
and how to get help filling in some of those
Yeah.
gaps.
know the basics, but leave the most of it to the professional. Okay. I love it when clients come in to see me for estate planning or Medicaid or whatever, and they've done their research. They think I'm going to be offended by that. It's like, no, I'm glad. Do your research, and I can just fill in the gaps, and I'll probably go much more deeper into it. But yeah, I love it when clients kind of know what's going on and have done their research. But let us do what we're good at. Yeah.
It's the Dr. Google thing that sometimes
Dr. Google.
gets folks in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, you can know 99% of the information, and in our world, it's that 1% that you
1%.
don't know that breaks everything.
That can mess you up.
That's an interesting one.
I don't want to make this video too long. We've been getting some complaints about it's too long, but I think everything we talked about is important. And I want people to understand, you kind of breezed by it real quick, but I think it's the basis of everything we've talked about today is if you call us and want us to work with you, Ian's going to ask you, what's the purpose of this money?
Yeah.
And that changed how, it's like you save money. We're just told save money, save money, save money. Don't spend everything that you make, save money. Well, why? Why do you want to save it? What is it going to do for you? What is the purpose of this bank account or this investment? And I think once you start thinking about it, it kind of opens up your idea of, I want to go on vacation, or I want to give money to the kids so they can go to college or they can go on vacation or do it. It opens up your world to realize money is a tool, and what tool are you wanting to get done with this money?
Yeah. When does it need to be spent? That determines where it goes, really, in the short term. And I think that's something that I was really trying to really want to drive at. And it's a change in the way that most people think, really.
It really is.
And it's hard, but when it happens, it unlocks so much. And I think that's where we spend most of our energy with folks who, the media or whoever would consider to be high net worth. We spend most of our energy, some of it's structuring assets right and having the right investments, but most of it's like, okay, you're not going to spend it all on your current path. You're not going to spend it all. And it's going to get either wasted in taxes or go to someone that you maybe don't necessarily want to have all of that. Right. And so how do we make those changes to get what you want?
Yeah.
Really, we want to look at money as a tool to get what you want. And I don't want this to come across as narcissistic, but you worked hard for it. You might as well spend it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important piece. And our editors can always cut some of my rambling out. So that'll be kind of a fun thing here. But I think what I want to make sure that we talk about in this video, what I intended to talk about is, really how to maximize wealth in a way that's a little bit counterintuitive. And I think what I was intending to talk about at the beginning is, most people focus on income and increasing income when really increasing assets is what matters. And you can make assets create income for you. And so, at a certain point, the income that you can drive from your assets should be higher than the income that you can drive from your productivity from your work. That's the goal. We call that retirement. Really, is what we call that. But let's reframe that and call that maybe financial independence, right? How quickly do we get to that point? And some of the things that people do at that level are a little bit counterintuitive. It's like, okay, how do we minimize taxes? Well, here's a really interesting one, and there's a lot of uproar in the United States about this. But one of the ways to do that is what we call the BuyBorrowDie plan. And I want to talk about this and tease this a little bit. We'll do it in a little more detail. But the BuyBorrowDie plan is you buy an asset that is going to appreciate. The asset grows. You borrow against it, and you spend that money. And then you either sell the asset or you put money back into it as you need to. And then in some cases, you don't repay the loan, and you die.
Yeah,
because loan proceeds in the United States are not taxable income as of right now.
Yeah.
We don't tax unrealized gains at this point. And so you can do this with securities, you can do this with real estate. There's a lot of talk about doing this with life insurance, and in my opinion, there's ways to do it well and ways to do it poorly. This is not this video, but just be aware of this. But these are the you can do it with stocks. You can do it with a non-qualified brokerage account. You
Sure.
can borrow against your assets without having to sell them and realize capital gains or have income.
Yeah.
And so this is something that folks are starting to talk about quite a bit more. And there's some good ways to do it and some not as thoughtful ways to do it. And so we want to encourage you to to get professional help, do it in a thoughtful way. But this is really one of the things that people are starting to pay a lot more attention to in the U.S. The tax system, in a lot of ways, is kind of out of control,
Yeah.
and so
Well, yeah, let me summarize that because I think part of my skill is taking complex things and breaking it down because that's kind of how my brain works. So you're saying someone's built up $3 million in stocks. Well, I would think to enjoy that, you would have to sell it to go buy something. No, borrow against it. You still have $3 million in stocks, but you borrowed $1 million. So you can go do something. And that's like, I can use the money without selling the object. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is before I met you and really started thinking about this, I would think, you mentioned Zuckerberg and other billionaires. I would think they became billionaires and they remain billionaires because they created some company or have done something to create that wealth. Well, that's partly true, but I didn't realize most billionaires have people employed by them who work just for them to do the very things we're talking about.
yeah.
And I would think most of our listeners can't afford to hire their own team of people to do that, but you can work with a financial advisor who understands this way better. And that's what billionaires do. They may make it, but to keep it and to grow it, they have professionals.
That's true.
They're not just good at everything. They're good at maybe creating a Tesla and growing a business that now goes into space. But to keep that money and to grow that money, they have professionals.
I love the way that you frame that because it's so important. You can't know everything.
Yeah.
And the folks that we work with that are both the happiest and the wealthiest. So think of a Venn diagram, both of those coming together, the people that are in the middle there, they're the people that know that they don't know everything, and they've built a team because they don't want to spend a ton of time working on this stuff. You could spend 8 or 10 years getting the level of knowledge that we have to figure this stuff out, and then you've wasted 8 or 10 years to save a couple bucks. Like
Sure.
they get that that's silly
That's
because
silly.
time is your most valuable resource. It's the one that is going away that you can't stop. And so they will build a team of experts to delegate that stuff to. The amount of leverage that provides to you is kind of hard to fathom, frankly.
Right.
So we talked about a lot in this video, and again, we got to say, this isn't any specific advice. Todd's an attorney, but he's not your attorney unless you hire him, and I'm a financial planner. I'm not your financial planner unless you hire me, and you'll know you did. And so we want to share these ideas and begin to talk about this stuff and reframe the way that that people think about it, and kind of reframe the financial media and their way of thinking about it. And you watch the news, or you watch CNBC, or Fox Business, and don't get mad at me for bringing those particular ones up, but it's like you got to understand they're
Selling commercials.
they're selling something. They need your attention. We talked about this at the beginning: time, energy, assets, and attention. These are your resources. They need attention to be able to sell advertising to their advertisers. So you're the product, unfortunately. And so if they keep you afraid and keep you hooked, that's how they continue to make money. And so, we understand that we're playing that game a little bit, but our goal is to educate and help you think about things in a different way so that you can have confidence and be able to spend the money that you've worked hard for and enjoy your life.
Yeah.
So the key takeaways here that are really important: we want to reframe the way we think about money. Money is an asset, or really wealth is maybe a better way to say it. What are the different components of wealth? Your time, your energy, your assets, and your attention. And money is a tool. And when we reframe it and really truly understand that money is a tool, we have to give it a purpose, and when we give it a purpose, it can be productive. And really working to transition from trading your time for income and building up assets that provide income for you so that you can maximize the use of your time. This is fundamentally what the wealthy do differently than regular folks who aren't really as thoughtful about it. And finally, Todd, to your point, the other piece is, the wealthy build a team and they delegate these things that they aren't experts at to their team so that they can maximize their time, their energy, and their attention and use it on what they care about most. So these are just a few things that we want to encourage you to think about to improve your own situation. Now, of course, there's a lot of details here. We couldn't cover it in this video, however short it ends up being. So if you want to learn more about that, how to elevate your wealth, or even apply some of these to your own situations, click the link. Let's have a conversation, and we'll personalize some of this stuff to you.
Yeah, and let us know what you want to learn about. If you have questions, let us know. Subscribe so that every time we put out a new video, you get it. But if there's anything that you want to know about, please let us know. We love answering questions. And so if there's some topic or thing that we say that you're like, or you just want to know more, please let us know.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.